Hello, hello, welcome. Give people a few minutes. We're still a couple of minutes ahead of the scheduled starting time. Welcome, good afternoon, good morning, maybe. Okay, we'll just give it a couple more minutes and then I'll get started. Thanks for joining us. Okay, thanks for joining us. We'll just get started in one more minute. Give people a second to join. Okay, let's get started. All right, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on where you are. Thank you for joining us here for this next feature spotlight. My name is David Kennedy. I'm a product manager here at DHS2. And today I'm going to talk through a little bit about the new maintenance app, give you a little bit of a new sneak preview about some of the features there, some of the more general features very quickly. And then we're going to dive in a little bit to deduplication of metadata. There's some new features in the maintenance app, but there's also some new features in the backend through the API. Go through a little bit of what is deduplication and when do you want to do it. So it's the agenda. We're going through, sorry, so past. This is a series of feature spotlights. We've got another couple coming up for data entry forms in November, on November 26th. And then one for data visualizations and data visualizer in December. So please join us for those. Thank you. Okay, today I'm going to give you a quick run through of the new maintenance app. Some of you may have seen it already. It has been around for a little while. And I won't go into everything about the new features, but I'll just give you a little bit of a preview. Then we're going to talk about deduplication in theory, deduplication of metadata, what it is, why there are duplicates, and why you'd want to remove them. We're going to have a look at the data integrity checks as part of the data administration. app in general, and then specifically how we can use that app to identify duplicates. And then we're going to go into what is the metadata merging. So merging is what we've called it, combining the metadata objects in the maintenance app and in the API. So we'll cover about what it is in theory first. So I'll talk through some of the options, then have a look at it, how to do it through the UI in the new maintenance app, and I'll show you a little bit about how to do it in the API, and finish off talking about some of the data merge options. And if we finish with enough time, we'll have some questions at the end. Thanks. Okay, so I'd like to introduce a new maintenance app. Some of you, like I said, may have seen it already. It has been available since version 41, but we've been progressively adding more metadata elements. It's an app that's on continuous release, so that means that we don't have to wait to major core version releases before we add functionality. So the app is getting updated on a continuous basis. We're mostly going for replacing the same functionality in this rebuild, but we are adding some updates, and I'll show you through some of those features right now. And we are aiming to complete this completely in 2026, next year. We probably won't have it all done by the core release of 43, but we'll aiming to have it done during the year. And as it is in continuous release, you'll be able to update and use all of the features there. We should have feature parity. So some of the new features we'll have a look at are just listed here. And let's jump across into the app and we'll show you around. So as you can see here, I hope you can see the new app. The look and feel is quite different. We've got menus on the side instead of across the top, whole new interface, updated visual elements. It's looks quite more modern. So first thing we'll have a look at is the new organization unit list. So instead of a flat list, we now have a hierarchy. So you can browse through in a hierarchy fashion, still go in and edit objects. Is the edit form. But we've got this new org unit management, which we like. And again, we're going to be probably iterating on this as we go. One of the other things that we've added is, so let's go to our category options. And this has been a very requested feature. We've added bulk updating for sharing. So you can choose a list of objects, update the sharing as one. At the moment, this is only for adding specific groups. The public access is going to be added shortly, so it will be there before we release. Go through and just show how I can do this. Let's change that to didn't capture. There we go. All updated for all of those options. We've got some new list view filters and categories. So in managing the view, you can actually now choose which filters you have visible. You could select the columns before, but we've updated the interface to show which columns are available. And we've also added a few extra options for which categories you can, which columns you can sort by. So for example, for category options, you can now sort by category and category option group. And a lot of these are good examples of features that have been requested in the maintenance app from the community for some time. And now that we've rebuilt the maintenance app, we're able to add in those new features. So we're doing it bit by bit. One of the other major improvements we'd like to show you is on big forms with a lot of elements. Instead of having one screen, we now have this more paginated view where you can browse through the long form and skip straight to the parts that you would like to see. You can still scroll all the way down, so it's a little bit of both. And so this just makes it easier to navigate, easier to look through it, and browse to exactly the position that you want. If you are know exactly what you want to go in and edit the organization units of a data set, you don't have to scroll the whole way down. You can click and come here and do it. Some of the other improvements that you can see here on this page with the data elements, you can now see the category combination that is associated with that data element when you're adding it. And we've also added this extra feature that filters out assigned data elements. So it'll only show you the unassigned ones so that you don't see the full list. If you've created a bunch of new data elements, you want to assign those into the data set you're creating, you can choose this feature and see just all of them there. That was a community request that's actually probably about 8 years old. So it's felt nice to get that in finally. The other option that I wanted to highlight here is that we now have a save and close and a save button on all of these objects. So I'll go back to a data set that has some values in it. And previously, every time you saved, it would exit. And now you have the option to save and stay in the screen and have it save successfully. So that's a nice little quality of life feature. Let's go back. One of the last one that I'll mention is we've added an entirely new functionality here in the new maintenance app of program indicator disaggregation. So I won't go into too much detail about this. There's probably another feature spotlight on this functionality, but just to quickly give you a little bit of a sneak preview, you can now add disaggregations for categories and category combinations directly to a program indicator, so that you don't have to have individual program indicators for every category option. You can map it once here and then disaggregate in data visualization. As I said, there's a lot more to that one, probably its own session. I just wanted to highlight that it is here. Okay, so that's the tour of the new maintenance app. There's a lot more in there. Just wanted to give you a little bit of a taste for it. And again, remind you that this is available if you go to the, if you go to the app management app. And the app hub, it's available as the maintenance preview in brackets app. When we've reached feature parity, we'll be reviewing the name. It'll be bundled, so we don't have to install it separately. But while it's still in this pre-release mode, you do have to install it from the app hub through the app management. Okay, great. Let's go back. Oh, sorry, one last thing that I did want to highlight from that is that you can see the updates as they happen. So you can come here and have a look and even see, so there's even a latest version that was updated 4 hours ago. And it's updated all the time. So you can come and review what the changes are and see the release notes here. Okay, great. Come back over. All right. So let's get into the deduplication. Deduplication, why is it important? So duplicate metadata is exactly what it sounds like when you've got metadata objects that are the same in your system. It's confusing for data entry, has an impact on data quality and integrity, creates challenges in reporting data quality and reporting and analysis. So you can think you're comparing the same things, but you're missing data because there's a duplicate that's holding some of that data. And then you can ultimately you can potentially misrepresent the health data. You think you're looking at the whole picture, but you're only looking at half of it because you've got duplicate metadata clogging up the system. So if there's duplicate metadata is bad, removing it and deduplicating it, making only one source of truth for each of those metadata elements is what we're trying to do here. So some of the common causes for getting duplicates, we've heard a lot for package imports as part of this. There'll be duplicates created when you import packages that have the same elements in all of them, in each of the packages, so you get duplicates sometimes. And then sometimes it's about separate admins with different permissions, maybe focusing on one area and not looking through the existing metadata and creating their own versions that might be the same and creating duplicates that way. I just wanted to highlight that we've got a couple of different types of duplicate metadata. This isn't a very scientific explanation. This is a bit more of a guidelines, but what we're calling a true duplicate is when the definition and the meaning is exactly the same. This is usually when you've got an import that's maybe put them in the same. It's been a mistake. You've got two, like in this example, two category options that are exactly the same, say exactly the same thing. And those ones can be easier to detect because they say the same thing. When we have a look at the data integrity checks, you'll see that they can be picked up quite easily because they are the same name, the same meaning, and so therefore it's a bit clearer that they should be removed. So the more confusing elements can be the semantic duplicates, where the meaning is the same, but the definition is slightly different. So, this example, 0 to 11 months and under 12 months. It's counting the same number of months, but it's written in a different way. And so that it's a little bit harder to detect automatically, but is just as equally duplicative of what its meaning is. Okay. So as we say, we've got these options. So the data integrity check can, or thereas the metadata assessment tool, sorry, can highlight where there's category options that are exactly the same, but when there's duplicates that have the same meaning but different names, that can be a little bit harder to detect. You have to be a little bit more careful. With category option combos, there's a couple of different cases. If they are the same concept but different names, that can be bad and you want to remove it. But if it's exactly the same, that can be a matter of the same category option used in multiple category combinations. So the category option combinations will be the same, even though they're referring to different things. So it's a little bit of a okay duplicate. So next category. Okay, let's have a look at the data integrity check. The data integrity checks are really for helping to keep your metadata clean within your instance, improving data quality, resolving integrity violations. As it says here, incorrect metadata can lead to incorrect data and information, low data quality, low data use. There was a new version of the data integrity check app that was made available in 41, so it's been around for a little while. So we'll just have a look at that now in case you haven't had a chance to see it. Okay, come across here. So again, I'll just start from the start. If you go to the data administration app, and then select the data integrity section. So in here, there's two types of checks, which have actually been separated out into standard checks and slow checks. So the slow checks take a little longer to run. So we've created a separate section for those so they can be run individually. So you're not creating too much of a load when you're going through and running all of them together. The standard checks run pretty quickly, and you can click this button here and run all standard checks straight away. As you'll see here, once they're all run, you'll see a little tick box to show if the integrity check is passed, there's no warnings, and little flags here to show when there's something that you might want to pay a bit more attention to. So let's have a look here for indicators. I'll go into exactly which of these checks refer to duplicates. We're just having a look here, but let's have a look. So indicators with the same formula. We've got a warning here, and it's showing all 4 of the indicators that have been detected as duplicates. And you'll see here that it's actually checking the formula is the same. So the names are different, but the formula is the same. So it's being a little bit clever about that. Then what's also got is the explanation for what that is, what the integrity check is actually comparing to show this, and a recommendation. So you can see here, duplicative indicators should be considered to be removed from the system, cause confusion. So making it a little bit easier to actually not just highlight these integrity check violations, but actually suggest what you should be able to do with them. Yep, so there's a lot here. So we do recommend that you use this periodically to clean up. There might be some warnings that you are aware of that you don't necessarily need any action, but it's good to review the data integrity checks as they are. One of the other neat features about this is that you can create your own integrity checks. If the checks here aren't enough, or you want something that's very specific to your instance, you can write your own integrity check and add that to the system and have it run here as well. Okay, so let's have a quick look at which integrity checks are there to identify duplicates. So we've got categories with the same category options. Different category combinations should not have the exact same combination of categories. Be a bit of a mouthful. Category option combination duplicates. That's the same category option combinations. Indicator types with the same factor. And indicator types with the same terms. So indicator types with the same factor is quite clear. Indicators with the same terms is when it's detecting that there is exactly the same terms in the formula, even if they're not in the right order. So if it's A plus B or B plus A, it will still detect it, but it's not super clever. So if you had 2A plus 2B divided by 2 and A plus B, it might not pick up that as being exactly the same formula, but it's a good start. Oops. Indicators with the same formulas, that's one we saw before. That's when it does have exactly the same formula. And then organizational units should not have the same name and parent. So that's relatively straightforward. We can go back and have a look at just... Oh, sorry. So we can have a look at some of those. So we've got org. Checks. A lot of checks for organization units. Organization units should not have the same name. And parent, we don't have any errors here. So that's great. Okay, so let's go back to what is merging. So I did want to pop this indie reference in, mostly because I'd like it, but also I think it actually helps a little bit because with the merging, it's a little bit more like a find and replace, kind of moving one object and putting a new one in. It's not the exact right metaphor, but good enough to use this picture. So it's an operation where we replace the references of a selected metadata object with its duplicate to merge them into one object. And we'll go through that in a little bit more clarity. So hopefully by the end of this, it'll be very clear exactly what that means. Just to give you a little bit of an update on what is supported and what isn't. So at the moment, by the API, we've got organization units, category options, category option combinations, indicator types, indicators, and data elements are all available in the backend through the API. In the new maintenance app in the UI, which I'll show you when we get to that part, we do have category options, indicator types, and indicators. We do plan to fill this table out. As you can see, there's tickets already created for all of them. So if you really want to, you can have a look and follow those tickets to see when they're done. For the backend components that are outstanding, the category and category combinations, we are targeting having them in for the next release of version 43, coming up in May 2026, so that will be done. And in the new maintenance app, the merging will be added as in a continuous process as we get to it. So again, we're hoping to have that completed by 2026, but the timing's not tied to the core releases, except in the case of category and category combination. Okay, so just put here for an example. So we're using indicator merge. We'll have a look at this. This says here, the merge operation will merge the source indicators into the target indicator. One or many source indicators can be specified. In this example, I'm going to go through mostly talking about replacing one indicator with another rather than the multiples. So, but if there's an occasion where you do want to do this in more than one time, you can do multiple sources into a target. So for indicators, this is a list of all of the properties on all the metadata objects that would be changed. So we'll have that that find and replace or replacement of the ID done. So you can see indicator group, data sets, data dimensions, sections, configuration, indicator, in other indicators, data entry form, and visualization. So just more of a picture of exactly what that means. So here, if you've got a source indicator that you'd like to remove, and the target indicator is the one that you would like to keep in the system. Seeing an example, so the indicator has references in all of those different metadata objects against, these are the values, these are the different objects that UID of that indicator is present in. And once the merging is complete, the target indicator has replaced the source indicator as the reference in all of those objects. There is an option whether you would like to keep or delete the source indicator. Delete the source indicator is by default, so it will be removed. If there's a case that you would like to keep it, you can keep the indicator itself, but all of those references will then be removed from all of those areas. Okay. So let's have a look at that in the new maintenance app. Let's do indicators. Come here. We did see it already. Let's have another look. Use my indicator. Indicators with the same formula. So this is what I was going to use. So say you've done this integrity check and you see that you've got total ANC visits and ANC visits total that have been created. Maybe when configuring these indicators, you misread the list that you were making and accidentally created it twice with a slightly different name, so it didn't pick up in the name when you're creating it that it was a duplicate name. But we know that we only want one of these, so let's go and have a look at merging them. We're going to indicators, go to ANC. And here we've got ANC visits total, and here we've got total ANC visits. So I want to select both of them from the list here. And you can see up here in this option, you can see that I've got two selected, and I now have this button to merge them. So take that through. This takes us next to the screen. So this gives you the option. So we've selected two that we want to merge, and this is where we get to select which one we want the source to be and which one we want the target to be. So as you remember, the source is the one that we want to remove, and the target is the one that we want to keep. So it doesn't let you choose the same one both, but it'll let you choose total to ANC. Now, here's where the merge settings, we've got the default to say delete, keep one source indicator. So delete one source indicator or keep. So it's default to delete, we'll leave that. Now, since this is such a large operation, I'll go into a little bit more about the warnings and cautions about running this. Just to say, this merging cannot be undone, as it says here. Indicators are one of the least impactful of this, but some of the other ones we'll go into. It can be quite consequential to merge when it's not appropriate. So we've added a couple of checks here just to make sure that to do it, you're quite aware. So let's type that in. Okay, and then it's cleared up and I can click merge. Operation was complete. All selected indicators were merged successfully. Back to the list. And see visits total is here. And the other one is gone. Just like that. Let's go on. Okay. Straightforward. The same, this was for indicators, but for the other metadata objects that have the same functionality that's available in the maintenance app, it's the same process. Select two of the objects that you'd like to merge in the list view, click merge, and follow the instructions on the next screen. As you can see here. The API that's available, I do recommend going and having a look at the documentation. I've got links at the end as well that will be included in this presentation, which will be shared. But just an example, I'm not going to go through doing the API merge, but there's endpoints for it for each of the metadata objects, and then payload, you define the sources and the target, and then whether you would like to delete or not. As you can see there. Okay. We did want to highlight indicator type merge is available, but since this can affect a large number of indicators, if you're using the same factor across a lot of indicators, we do want to warn this can be quite impactful and be very careful. And there shouldn't be a case where you need to merge indicators of different indicator types, of different factors. So it is important to just be extra careful of this. So it is available through the UI, but be very cautious of using it. The scenario is mostly probably if you've created two accidentally at the same time, and you can go through and remove one that hasn't necessarily been used. Okay. So with the data merging, where there's metadata objects that have associated data, there's two options that you can choose to how to manage the data in the two different systems. I'll go into this in a little bit more detail just to cover it off. But there's discard and last updated. So as it states quite clearly here, if you choose discard, all of the source data values will be deleted before the merge operation is complete, so that all of the target values will remain. So that's quite a heavy-handed option. So that's you're deciding that the duplicate doesn't have any data that you'd like to keep. You can do this. The metadata is cleaned up. The data is all just remaining of what is in the target. The other option is last updated. So that will merge data values. So if there's data values that have the same context, so the same org unit, period, category option combination, attribute option combination for both the source and the target, then the one that was written into the database last will get kept and the other one will get discarded. If there's no conflicts, if there's not data in the same context, then values from both the source and the target can be preserved. So just to give a little bit of an example of that, as we see here, so this is a example of the discard option. So if you've got the source and the target, and there's data values against each of these periods for this org unit and this data element, let's assume it's the same category option combination, attribute option combination as well. Then in the discard option, if there is not a value in March in the target, for example, all of the source data elements will be deleted and replaced with the data values in the target. So March, even though there was some data in the source, it'll be replaced with no data in the target. So that's, again, very complete view. For the last updated option, it behaves a little bit differently. It will check where in the target there's conflicting values in January and February. In this example, I didn't write timestamps in, but in this example, the target has the latest values for January and February, and those are replaced. For March, it has a value that there isn't one in the target, and for April, the value in the source is more recent than the value in the target, so it remains. So if there's no conflict, the data value is kind of combined. So this is an example where it's all in the same, but this might be more applicable if you've got one duplicate used in either one whole org unit set or periods and another definition that you're trying to merge use for different org units, then they can be combined without the data loss. We are looking at adding more options for the future. It's been brought up that we could have more complex data combination options here. So if you wanted to sum the values, for example, but that's a little bit further down the road. We don't have that support yet. If that's something that you believe would be useful, please feel free to add an idea in the Jerry Discovery board. Okay. So this is a big cautious. We do just want to say, be very careful when merging the metadata. There is no rollback. There's no undo for this. So if the wrong items are merged, it can lead to some pretty severe consequences of data being pushed together that shouldn't be replaced, a whole bunch of things. So it's a very powerful feature for cleaning up your metadata when it has gotten a little bit messy if there's duplicates, but please exercise a lot of caution. It should be done in a test environment first and then replayed in a production environment. We don't currently have a way to transfer the merging settings from a test environment into a production environment. That's another thing that we're kind of looking at as a future enhancement to this. But it is a matter of doing it in a test environment, making sure you replay the same steps in the production environment. So, but we're not just saying be careful, we're also adding some ways for administrators to help this. So when I showed you the demo, I was logged in as somebody with all the permissions, but there are separate authorities required for each of those operations. I've got merge category options set twice, sorry. Yes, the all permissions does work, but we do not recommend using it. It is best practice to only allocate the minimum permissions for any set task. So if someone is managing org units and they might need to merge org units, then they should have just the merge org units, organization units authority and not the other ones. Similar for the other objects. So this is a way to help manage that. We've also looked at enhancing the prevention of duplicates. So in this example, for category combination, if you're actually creating a new category combination, it might have a different name, but if you've only got if you're adding the same categories that are in a different category combination, a warning will pop up showing you that you're creating a duplicate. And we've got this functionality across the new maintenance app in a few areas where the duplicate will be required. So helping to prevent duplicates being created in the first place helps reduce the need to do this merging, which is much, much better outcome. Okay. Reached the end of my prepared content. I've got some links there. I'll put in more links once this is finished and right before this can be shared. But yes, that brings me to the end of my content. I'll stop sharing and we have time for some questions. I haven't been reviewing the chat, so I'm not sure if there's some in there. I can have a look now. Let me have a quick look. Hello, thanks for all of the welcome messages. All right, we have a question from Abdullah saying, if you decide to keep the source during a merging operation, this will create another duplication situation. Yes, that is correct. It's not recommended to keep the source once you've replaced all of the references to it. But it's in there as an option just in case that there's a reason that you'd like to move all the references and use the source for something else. But correct, it's probably unlikely. Okay, do we have any more questions? Feel free to add it into the chat. Oh, it was super clear. Great. Yes. So one of the so Jamie's asked a question, if you merge category combinations, what happens with the data element values associated with them? So there's some extra complications with the category combinations. We haven't implemented that part yet. But there is a case where there'll be kind of cascading duplicates once you merge category combinations and then get duplicate category option combinations that we do need to deal with when that's implemented. So keep an eye out for that coming. But yes, that's a good question. Yeah, so with the categories and the category combinations and the category option combinations, there's a little bit of a cascading duplication issue that we need to work on. Okay. Integrity check reports a problem with a duplicate category by default, but in reality, there is only one default. We're using 240. Duplicate defaults are a little bit of a special case. I did not prepare a good answer to this. Sorry about that. I know the defaults are treated a little bit differently. So there's some things where it can be that the default is the duplicate default might be not so easy to detect. This might be one for the implementation specialists, unless somebody else on the line has a good answer to that duplicate default categories. Yeah, so maybe we can get an answer to you about that. That's a good point. Okay. So there's nothing. Got. Is it possible to merge data that is entered in event program A into event program B? Um, Merging entire programs is not covered in this functionality so far. So there would be a little bit of a, I'm not sure if that's something we actually do want to support. That's maybe a good question for the tracker team about merging in a whole program. But that isn't something that is currently supported with the more metadata. We're looking at kind of a smaller buckets at this case. Well, thanks, Emily. Yeah, so Shurjit's posted, there is a possibility of more than one default, but the default ID should be the same across all instances. But previously it was different for every DHIS2 system. So I suggest you please post in COP so we can help you further. Yes, I've heard of this as being an issue, but I think that the fix depends on the exact situation. So you might need a little bit more support than I can give right now. Thanks. Shurjit. Okay. All right. If there is no more questions, I'd invite you to have a look at the new maintenance app. And again, it's available in preview. If you go to the App Hub, you can download it and have a look, have a browse, and keep an eye out for new features coming. We do hope to have it feature parity by the end of by the end of next year. And then this will definitely not be the last time you hear about the new maintenance app. We'll probably have a couple more feature spotlights, and the release webinar will talk more details about it. And along with that, have a look at more functionality as we add more merging, more elements to the merging family. And we might do another one of these next year when we've got all of the elements in place and we can go through some more of the detail. All right. Thank you all for your time. Have a great afternoon.